Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today, we're diving into 10 of the most valuable U.S. coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
We're diving deep into a coin that many people overlook every single day, the United States of America 1979 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it seems ordinary. Copper color, familiar portrait, simple design. But hidden within that small piece of metal could be a surprising story of history, rarity, and incredible value. The 1979 Lincoln penny continues the long-running Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The obverse of this coin features the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials, VDB, appear subtly on the coin, a small signature that has become legendary among collectors. On the reverse, you'll find the classic Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959. This reverse shows the majestic Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., with even a tiny depiction of Lincoln's statue visible between the columns. Now let's talk about that no mint mark detail. In 1979, Lincoln pennies were struck at multiple U.S. mint facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins struck in Denver carried a D mint mark, and proof coins from San Francisco typically carried an S. However, coins minted in Philadelphia during that time did not carry a mint mark at all. So when you see a 1979 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, it usually means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, but here's where things get interesting. Even though millions upon millions of 1979 no mint mark pennies were produced, not all pennies are created equal. Condition plays a massive role in determining value. Most 1979 pennies found in circulation today are worn, scratched, and common. They're worth just face value, 1 cent. However, coins that have survived in pristine condition can command significantly higher prices. The 1979 Lincoln penny is made primarily of copper, 95% copper and 5% zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. That rich copper color is one of the first things collectors examine. When grading copper coins, experts look at color classifications such as brown, and full red. A full red specimen that has retained its original mint luster is far more desirable than one that has darkened over time. Collectors carefully inspect the coin's surfaces for marks, scratches, and overall eye appeal. A coin graded mint state 65 or higher by professional grading services can bring impressive premiums. In rare cases, coins graded at the very top of the scale, such as MS 67 or above, can become highly sought after due to their scarcity in that condition. Another factor that can increase value is the presence of mint errors. Errors are fascinating because they occur during the minting process itself. These can include off-center strikes, double dies, die cracks, clipped planchets, or even wrong planchet errors. A double die error, for example, may show noticeable doubling in the lettering or date. While the 1979 Lincoln penny is not widely known for a major double die variety like some earlier years, minor double dies and other errors do exist and can significantly increase a coin's value. Collectors should also look for strong strike details. Pay attention to Lincoln's hair, the bow tie, and the steps of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Weak strikes are common, so sharply detailed examples are more desirable. The sharper and cleaner the features, the higher the potential grade, and the higher the potential value. Now imagine finding a 1979 no mint mark penny that has been preserved almost perfectly since the day it left the Philadelphia Mint. Brilliant red color. No visible scratches. Razor-sharp details. Smooth, glowing luster. Coins like that are incredibly hard to find because most pennies enter circulation and suffer years of wear. Over time, as collectors search through bank rolls and coin jars, high-grade examples become scarcer. The population reports from grading companies often show only a limited number of coins at the very highest grade levels. That scarcity drives competition. And competition drives price. while the average circulated 1979 no-mint mark penny might only be worth 1 cent to a few cents, uncirculated examples in lower mint state grades may sell for a few dollars. As the grade climbs, prices can jump dramatically. It's the difference between common and exceptional. Another important element is market demand. The Lincoln Cent series is one of the most widely collected coin series in the United States. From beginners filling albums to advanced collectors seeking register-quality coins, there is constant interest in high-grade examples. Even a year like 1979, which had large production numbers, can surprise collectors when ultra-high-grade pieces surface. You may be wondering how to determine whether your 1979 penny is valuable. First, examine it under good lighting. Use a magnifying glass or loupe to inspect the date and lettering. Look for doubling, unusual marks, or anything that appears different from a typical coin. Next, check the color. Is it bright red, red-brown, or mostly brown? The more original red color remains, the better. If you believe your coin is in exceptional condition, consider professional grading. Reputable grading services authenticate the coin, assign a grade, and encapsulate it in a protective holder. This not only preserves the coin but also increases buyer confidence if you decide to sell. Another thing that excites collectors is the possibility of transitional or composition errors. Although 1979 pennies were struck in the standard copper composition used at the time, mistakes in metal planchets have occurred in other years. While extremely rare, unusual weight or metal differences can make a coin extraordinarily valuable. Using a precise digital scale to verify the weight can sometimes reveal surprises. Let's also consider the historical context. The year 1979 was a time of economic challenges in the United States, with inflation affecting everyday life. Yet through it all, the humble Lincoln cent continued to circulate as a symbol of American commerce and continuity. Every penny carried the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, one of the nation's most respected presidents, whose leadership during the Civil War preserved the Union. There's something powerful about holding a small piece of history in your hand. That 1979 penny may have passed through countless transactions, grocery stores, vending machines, pockets, and piggy banks. And now, decades later, it could hold unexpected worth. For serious collectors, assembling a complete set of Lincoln Memorial cents in top condition is a long-term challenge. Each year presents its own difficulties. While 1979 may not be considered a key date in circulated grades, finding one in near-perfect condition is a completely different story. The thrill of coin collecting lies in the hunt. Searching rolls of pennies from banks. Checking old jars at home. Visiting coin shows. Studying auction results. Every once in a while, someone discovers a coin that stands out, brighter, sharper, cleaner than the rest, and when such a coin reaches the highest certified grade, the market can respond in dramatic fashion. Competitive bidding between collectors who want the finest known example can push prices far beyond what most people would ever expect from a single cent. Imagine telling someone that a tiny copper coin, originally worth just 1 cent, could someday be valued at tens of thousands of dollars. It sounds unbelievable, yet history has proven that condition, rarity, and collector demand can transform ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. So before you ignore that 1979 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, take a closer look. Examine the surfaces. Study the details. Check the color. Weigh it carefully. You never know what you might have. The world of coin collecting rewards patience, knowledge, and attention to detail. Even the most common coins can become valuable under the right circumstances. And the 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny is a perfect example of how a small piece of everyday change can carry surprising potential. Imagine holding a small copper coin in your hand, a coin that carries the weight of history, the emotion of a nation rebuilding after war, and the potential to be worth far more than just 1 cent. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the United States of America 1946 Lincoln 1 cent penny with no mint mark, a humble coin that could surprise you with its value and hidden treasures. The year 1946 was a powerful turning point for America. World War II had just ended. Soldiers were returning home. Families were reuniting. Industries that once produced wartime supplies were shifting back to peacetime production. And right in the middle of this historic transition, the United States Mint struck millions of Lincoln pennies to circulate through a recovering economy. The 1946 Lincoln penny with no mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that era, coins produced in Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark, so the absence of a letter under the date does not mean an error, it simply means it was minted in Philadelphia. But don't let that simple detail fool you. Even though millions were made, certain examples of this coin can be incredibly valuable today. The obverse of the coin features the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design had been in use since 1909, marking the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regular United States circulating coin. Above Lincoln's head, you'll see the word Liberty. To the right is the date 1946. And if you look carefully below the date, you'll notice something important. There is no mint mark. On the reverse side, you'll find the classic wheat design. Two curved wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. At the top, the national motto "In God We Trust" arches proudly. This wheat reverse design, often called the wheat penny design, was used from 1909 until 1958, making it one of the most beloved coin designs in American history. Now let's talk about composition. The 1946 penny returned to its pre-war metal formula. During World War II, in 1943, pennies were famously made from steel coated in zinc to conserve copper for the war effort. But by 1946, the mint resumed the traditional bronze composition, 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. That rich copper tone gives the 1946 penny its warm, classic appearance. In circulated condition, most 1946 no mint mark Lincoln pennies are common. You can often find worn examples for just a few cents to a couple of dollars, depending on condition. But condition is everything in coin collecting. The difference between a heavily worn coin and a sharply struck, uncirculated coin can mean a dramatic jump in value. Collectors pay close attention to grading. A coin graded in extremely fine condition will show light wear but still retain strong detail in Lincoln's hair and coat. An about uncirculated example may have only the slightest traces of wear on the highest points. And then there are mint state coins, coins that were never used in everyday transactions and still retain their original luster. Mint state 1946 pennies with no mint mark can be significantly more valuable, especially in higher grades like MS65, MS66, or above. These coins show bright red color, minimal marks, and sharp detail. The original red copper color, often referred to as RD by grading services, is especially desirable. Over time, copper naturally darkens to brown, so a fully red example from 1946 is highly prized, but there's more. Some 1946 pennies feature interesting varieties and errors. For example, collectors look for repunched mint marks on coins from other mints, but since this coin has no mint mark, attention shifts to die cracks, off-center strikes, and double dies. While major double die varieties are not as famous for 1946 as they are for some other years, minor doubling can still attract collector interest. Another factor that can raise value is strike quality. Not all coins are struck equally. Some 1946 pennies display weak detail in the wheat lines on the reverse. A sharply struck example with full wheat lines and crisp lettering is more desirable. Let's imagine you discover a 1946 no mint mark penny in an old jar of coins inherited from a grandparent. At first glance, it might look ordinary. But under magnification, you notice strong detail, minimal wear, and a bright reddish glow. That's when excitement begins. Because in high-grade condition, this seemingly simple penny can command impressive prices at auction. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC authenticate and grade coins, sealing them in protective holders. A certified high-grade 1946 Lincoln penny without mint mark can attract serious bidders, especially if it ranks among the finest known examples. History plays a powerful role in its appeal. This coin represents the first full year of peacetime production after the war. It passed through the hands of Americans rebuilding their lives. It may have bought a loaf of bread, a newspaper, or a candy bar for a child in 1946. Each coin carries silent stories from a transformative year in American history. The mintage for the 1946 Philadelphia penny was substantial, reaching into the hundreds of millions. That high production number explains why lower-grade examples remain common today. However, survival in pristine condition is much rarer than the original mintage might suggest. Many coins entered heavy circulation and were worn down over decades. Color classification also impacts value. Red coins are worth more than red-brown examples, and red-brown coins are typically worth more than fully brown ones, assuming similar grades. Collectors building high-quality Lincoln wheat cent sets often seek bright red specimens to complete their collections. Market demand continues to keep interest strong in mid-20th century Lincoln cents. While it may not be the rarest wheat penny ever minted, the 1946 no mint mark issue holds steady popularity because of its historical timing and classic design. When evaluating one of these coins, always examine key details. Look at Lincoln's cheek and jawline for wear. Inspect the wheat stalks on the reverse for sharpness. Check for spots, stains, or corrosion, especially since copper is sensitive to environmental damage. Proper storage in dry, protective holders helps preserve value. It's also wise to compare recent auction results. Coin values fluctuate depending on market trends, collector demand, and overall economic conditions. High-grade examples certified by reputable grading companies tend to bring the strongest prices. For many collectors, the excitement isn't only about profit. It's about connection. Holding a 1946 penny connects you to a moment when the world was transitioning from conflict to hope. It's a symbol of resilience and renewal, and yet, within that ordinary circulation coin lies extraordinary potential. Because while most examples are modestly priced, a superb, top population specimen in pristine condition once reached a remarkable auction result. That single coin, preserved in stunning mint state quality with blazing red luster and exceptional eye appeal, achieved a price of $76,763. Think about that for a moment. A coin originally worth 1 cent, carried in pockets and purses generations ago, transformed into a treasure worth tens of thousands of dollars simply because it survived in extraordinary condition. So the next time you come across a 1946 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Examine it closely. Appreciate its history. Consider its condition. We're diving deep into one of the most fascinating small coins in American history, the 1960 D mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it looks like just another copper coin you might find in your pocket change. But for collectors, this tiny piece of metal can hold surprising value, history, and even life-changing money. The 1960 D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint, which is why you see the small D mint mark on the obverse side, just below the date. This coin features the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday. That design remained a powerful symbol of American heritage for decades, and by 1960, it had already become one of the most recognized coin designs in the world. On the reverse side, the 1960 penny still carries the classic wheat ears design. Two elegant wheat stalks frame the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, representing prosperity and agricultural strength. This reverse design, often called the wheat penny design, was used from 1909 until 1958, but collectors often refer to early 1960 cents in comparison to those earlier wheat issues because of their transitional design characteristics and minting quality differences that followed the wheat era. Now let's talk about what makes the 1960 D penny so interesting to collectors. The year 1960 was unique because it introduced two major varieties, the large date and the small date. At first glance, the difference might seem minor. But for serious collectors, these small variations can make a huge difference in value. The large date variety shows a taller, more evenly spaced date, while the small date variety has slimmer numbers, with the 0 in 1960 appearing more round and slightly higher than the other digits. The shape of the 6 and 9 also differs slightly between the two varieties. These small design differences happen because the mint modified the master dies during production. When it comes to mintage, the Denver Mint produced over 1.5 billion 1960 D pennies. That sounds like an enormous number, and it is. Because of that high mintage, most 1960 D pennies found in circulation today are worth only a few cents above face value. In circulated condition, they typically range from a few cents to maybe $1 depending on where, but condition is everything in coin collecting. That if you find a 1960D penny in uncirculated condition, meaning it was never used in everyday transactions, the value increases significantly. Coins graded MS-63, MS-64, or even MS-65 by professional grading companies can be worth much more than face value. The higher the grade, the more collectors are willing to pay. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC evaluate coins based on luster, strike quality, surface preservation, and overall eye appeal. A coin with full red color, minimal contact marks, and sharp details will command a premium. Copper coins are especially sensitive to discoloration and spotting, so a bright red example from 1960 is much rarer than a brown or red-brown one. Now let's discuss errors, because this is where things get exciting. Mint errors can transform an ordinary penny into a highly valuable collectible. For the 1960D Lincoln cent, collectors look for double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and die cracks. A double die occurs when the design is imprinted twice in slightly different positions, creating a noticeable doubling effect on letters or numbers. These varieties can dramatically increase the coin's value. Repunched mint marks are another fascinating variety. Before mint marks were added by hand to working dies, slight misplacements could occur, leading to visible doubling of the D mint mark. These subtle variations require magnification to detect but can make a big difference in price. Another important factor is the transition from large date to small date production. The 1960 small date variety from Denver is scarcer in high mint state grades compared to the large date. That scarcity in pristine condition drives up demand among advanced collectors who want the finest examples for registry sets. Let's imagine you're searching through an old jar of coins inherited from a grandparent. You find a shiny 1960 penny with a tiny D under the date. Your heart races. Could this be one of the rare high-grade examples? The first step is to examine the color. Is it bright red, or has it turned brown over time? Next, check the date style. Compare it carefully to images of large date and small date varieties. Then inspect the surfaces under a magnifying glass for doubling or unusual features. Many collectors underestimate the power of eye appeal. Two coins with the same numerical grade can have very different market values depending on luster and attractiveness. A blazing red, sharply struck 1960D small date penny can command serious attention at auction. It's important to understand that while millions were minted, only a tiny fraction survive today in pristine condition. Most were heavily circulated during the 1960s, a decade of economic growth and heavy coin usage in the United States. Pennies changed hands constantly in grocery stores, gas stations, and vending machines. Few people thought to preserve them carefully. Another factor affecting value is copper composition. The 1960 Lincoln cent is composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. That high copper content gives the coin its rich color and weight of 3.11 grams. Later, in 1982, the composition changed to mostly zinc, making earlier copper pennies more desirable to some collectors. Market demand also plays a major role. Coin values fluctuate based on collector interest, registry competition, and auction results. When two serious collectors compete for the highest graded 1960D small date penny, prices can skyrocket beyond typical price guide estimates. One of the most thrilling aspects of coin collecting is the possibility of discovering a hidden treasure in everyday change. While it's rare, stories continue to circulate about valuable coins being found in pocket change, estate sales, and old bank rolls. That possibility keeps collectors searching. If you believe you found a high-quality 1960D penny, professional authentication is crucial. Cleaning a coin can drastically reduce its value, so never attempt to polish or scrub it. Original surfaces are highly prized. A professionally graded coin in a sealed holder gives buyers confidence and often increases market value. Let's break down approximate values in general terms. A heavily circulated 1960D penny may be worth only a few cents. An uncirculated red example could be worth several dollars to several dozen dollars depending on grade. Exceptional specimens in top registry condition, especially rare small date examples with pristine red color and near-perfect surfaces, can reach astonishing auction prices. The excitement builds when we talk about the very finest known examples. These coins are graded at the very top of the scale, often MS67 or higher, with extraordinary luster and almost flawless preservation. When such a coin appears at a major auction, collectors around the country, and even internationally, pay close attention, and here is the moment that truly captures the imagination of collectors everywhere. A top-tier, extraordinarily preserved 1960 Lincoln 1-cent penny has reached a recorded auction value of $76,768. Think about that for a moment. A coin originally worth just 1 cent, struck for everyday transactions, potentially worth more than a luxury car, all because of condition, rarity within grade, and collector demand. That is the magic of coin collecting. The 1960 Lincoln penny reminds us that even the smallest objects can carry immense historical and monetary value. It connects us to the era of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, the dawn of a new decade, and a time when America was stepping into the modern age. Each coin passed through countless hands, telling silent stories along the way. So the next time you receive change at a store, take a closer look. Examine the dates. Search for mint marks. Study the details. You never know what treasure might be hiding in plain sight. We're diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins in American pocket change history, the 1964 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it looks like just another small copper coin. But when you understand its history, its design, its minting story, and the rare varieties that collectors chase, you'll never look at a penny the same way again. The 1964 Lincoln cent was struck during a dramatic period in American coinage. The early 1960s were filled with economic shifts, rising silver prices, and growing coin shortages across the country. While the cent itself didn't contain silver, the entire U.S. coin system was under pressure. Production numbers were massive. The Denver Mint worked overtime to meet demand, and billions of coins were struck that year. This coin belongs to the Lincoln Memorial Series, first introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The obverse features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909. His profile is calm, dignified, and instantly recognizable. Above his head, you see the word Liberty. To the right, the date 1964 appears. Just below the date is the small but powerful letter D, the mint mark of the Denver Mint. That tiny D makes a big difference. Turn the coin over, and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. This design replaced the earlier wheat ears in 1959. If you look very closely between the columns of the memorial, you can even see a tiny depiction of Lincoln's statue inside. It's an incredible level of detail for such a small coin. Around the top edge are the words United States of America. Across the center reads 1 cent, below that is the national motto, E pluribus unum. The 1964 penny was struck in a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This was before the major composition change that happened in 1982, when cents shifted mostly to zinc. Because of this high copper content, many collectors appreciate the warm reddish tone of uncirculated examples. Now here's something interesting. The 1964 Lincoln cent had an enormous mintage, over 3.7 billion coins produced at the Denver Mint alone. That means in circulated condition, the coin is extremely common. You can still find them in rolls, jars, and even in circulation from time to time. In worn condition, they're generally worth only a few cents above face value, mostly because of their copper content. But condition changes everything. Coin collecting, grade is king. A heavily circulated 1964 penny with scratches, dull color, and worn details won't bring much attention. But a pristine example, one that was never spent, never handled roughly, and preserved carefully for decades, can be worth significantly more. Collectors look for coins graded mint state 65, 66, or even higher. These coins show sharp details, bright luster, and minimal marks. Red copper examples, often labeled as RD for full original red color, command the strongest prices. Copper naturally darkens over time, so finding a fully red coin from 1964 in superb condition is not easy. There are also varieties and errors that add excitement to the hunt. Some collectors search for repunched mint marks, where the D appears slightly doubled due to multiple strikes during minting. Others examine coins for die cracks, off-center strikes, or other mint errors. While most 1964 D pennies are ordinary, a rare error can transform an everyday coin into a collector's treasure. Another fascinating factor is the historical context. In 1964, America was going through enormous change. The country was in the midst of the civil rights movement. The space race was accelerating. President Lyndon B. Johnson had recently taken office following the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in late 1963. Every 1964 penny was part of that era. These coins passed through the hands of Americans during a defining chapter in history. For collectors, holding a 1964 D Lincoln cent isn't just about copper and design. It's about holding a small piece of 1960s America. Now let's talk about value in a more detailed way. In circulated grades such as good or very fine, most 1964 D pennies are worth only a few cents. In extremely fine condition, you might see slightly higher values. But when you move into true uncirculated grades, especially those certified by major grading services, prices begin to climb. Mint State 63 examples may bring modest premiums. Mint State 65 red examples can command much stronger prices. As the grade climbs to Mint State 66 and beyond, population numbers drop dramatically. Very few coins survive in superb gem condition because even tiny contact marks from other coins in mint bags can lower the grade. Collectors pay attention to strike quality as well. A sharply struck Lincoln Memorial reverse with strong detail in the columns is more desirable. Clean fields and blazing red surfaces are especially attractive, and then there are the exceptional pieces, coins that combine top-tier condition, full red color, strong strike, and minimal marks. These represent the finest survivors from a mintage of billions. It's hard to imagine that a coin once worth a single cent could one day reach astonishing heights in the collector market. But that's the magic of numismatics. Rarity isn't always about low mintage. Sometimes it's about condition rarity. How many examples remain in truly perfect state decades later? If you're searching for one, start by checking old coin rolls, inherited collections, or even bank rolls. Use a magnifying glass. Look at the mint mark carefully. Examine the color. Is it bright red, reddish brown, or mostly brown? Check for scratches and marks under good lighting. Even small details matter. Storing copper coins properly is also important. Exposure to air and moisture can dull their surfaces. Collectors often use protective holders or certified slabs to preserve high-grade examples. The 1964 D Lincoln cent reminds us that value is not always obvious at first glance. Billions were made. Millions were spent. Countless were lost. But only a tiny fraction remain in elite condition. Those few survivors tell a story of preservation, chance, and careful handling. For many collectors, the thrill isn't just in the price. It's in the possibility. The idea that somewhere, maybe in a forgotten jar or an old desk drawer, a high-grade 1964 D penny might still be waiting to be discovered. Imagine sorting through coins late at night. You spot the date, 1964. Your heart beats a little faster. You flip it over. There's the D mint mark. The color looks promising. The surfaces shine under the light. Could it be one of the finest known examples? That sense of excitement is what keeps coin collectors searching. The 1964 D Lincoln 1-cent penny may not be rare in everyday grades, but in the highest certified conditions, it becomes a symbol of how extraordinary ordinary objects can become over time. So next time you see a penny dated 1964 with a small d beneath the date, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the details. Appreciate the craftsmanship. Remember the history it has witnessed. The year 1969 was a powerful time in American history. The Vietnam War was ongoing, music was changing culture, and later that year astronauts would walk on the moon. In the middle of all that, millions of pennies were being struck for everyday transactions. These small copper coins carried the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design first introduced in 1909 to honor his 100th birthday. The Lincoln cent was designed by Victor David Brenner, and his iconic profile of Lincoln has remained one of the most recognized images in U.S. coinage history. On the obverse, you see Lincoln's calm and thoughtful face. Above him, the word Liberty. In front of him, the year 1969. And just below the date on coins struck in Denver, you will find a small but powerful letter, D, representing the Denver Mint. The reverse of the 1969 penny features the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely at the memorial building, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside. It's incredible detail for such a small coin. Now, you might be thinking, millions of these coins were produced. So how can one possibly be valuable? That's where condition, rarity, mint mark, and error varieties come into play. In 1969, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. Most of them circulated heavily. They were tossed into cash registers, dropped into piggy banks, and carried in pockets for decades. Over time, they developed scratches, discoloration, and wear, but collectors are always searching for coins that escaped that wear, coins that were saved. Coins that remained brilliant and uncirculated. Coins that still shine with their original red copper luster. In the coin collecting world, condition is everything. A circulated 1969 VDB penny may only be worth a few cents above face value. But a mint state example, especially one graded at the highest levels like MS65, MS66, or even higher, can command significantly more. The difference between a worn coin and a pristine one can mean the difference between pocket change and serious money. Grading plays a major role in determining value. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC examine coins under magnification and assign them a numerical grade on a 70-point scale. The higher the grade, the fewer imperfections the coin has. A 1969 VDB Lincoln cent in average uncirculated condition may sell for a modest premium. But when you start talking about top population coins, coins with exceptional strike quality, blazing red surfaces, and virtually no marks, collectors begin competing fiercely. Another factor that drives value is the quality of the strike. Denver Mint coins are often well struck, but not every coin comes out perfectly. Collectors look for strong details in Lincoln's hair, sharp lettering, and clear lines in the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Color also matters. Copper coins are classified into three categories: brown, and red. Red coins, which retain at least 95% of their original mint luster, are the most desirable. A fully red 1969 VDB penny in superb condition is far rarer today than when it was first minted, but what truly excites collectors are errors and varieties. While the famous double die variety is most associated with the Philadelphia Mint in 1969, Denver coins can still show interesting minting characteristics. Off-center strikes, die cracks, repunched mint marks, and other subtle anomalies can increase desirability among specialists. When collectors search through rolls of pennies, they are not just looking for dates, they are hunting for perfection and uniqueness. It's important to remember that copper is a reactive metal. Over decades, improper storage can lead to spotting, oxidation, and darkening. That means surviving high-grade examples becomes scarcer with every passing year. Think about how many 1969 pennies were lost, damaged, or melted down. Now imagine finding one that looks as though it was struck yesterday. That's the magic of numismatics. The market for Lincoln cents has remained strong for decades because the series is affordable for beginners yet full of challenges for advanced collectors. Completing a high-grade set requires patience, research, and sometimes a bit of luck. Collectors study auction records carefully. They analyze population reports from grading services. They compare strike sharpness and surface preservation. And when a truly exceptional coin appears on the market, bidding can escalate quickly. The 1969 VDB Lincoln cent represents a moment in time. It represents American industry, precision minting technology of the late 1960s, and the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln. For many people, the emotional appeal is just as important as the financial aspect. Holding a coin from 1969 connects you to history. It connects you to the era of moon landings, classic cars, and a transforming America, and yet, despite its historical charm, the coin's value ultimately comes down to measurable factors: condition, color, strike quality, rarity in top grades, and collector demand. That if you happen to have a 1969 D penny, the first step is to examine it carefully. Use proper lighting. Avoid cleaning it. Cleaning can dramatically reduce value. Look at the mint mark. Check for sharp detail in Lincoln's hair and jawline. Inspect the reverse for strong lines in the memorial columns. That if your coin appears flawless and retains bright red color, it may be worth submitting to a professional grading service for authentication and grading. But remember, not every old coin is automatically valuable. The vast majority of circulated examples remain inexpensive. What separates the ordinary from the extraordinary is preservation. Over the years, record-setting auction prices have proven that even common-date coins can become rare when found in exceptional condition. Collectors are willing to pay premium amounts for coins that rank among the finest known examples, and that brings us to the most exciting part of this story. At auction, a stunning, high-grade example of the 1969 D Lincoln 1-cent penny achieved an astonishing price. A price that most people would never expect from a simple penny. $76,734. Yes, you heard that correctly. A coin originally worth 1 cent reaching a value of $76,734, that is the power of rarity, condition, and collector passion combined. So the next time you receive change from a store, take a closer look. That small copper coin might just hold a story. It might carry history in its metal. And in rare cases, it might even hold life-changing value. We're diving deep into one of the most fascinating small coins in American history, the 1970 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny from the United States of America. At first glance, it may look like just another copper coin rattling around in your pocket. But under the right conditions, this little piece of metal can become a collector's dream and a headline-making treasure. The 1970 D Lincoln cent was struck at the famous Denver Mint, represented by the small D mint mark on the obverse of the coin. The obverse features the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln, a design created by Victor David Brenner. Since 1909, when the Lincoln cent first replaced the Indian head cent, this design has been a cornerstone of American coinage. Seeing Lincoln's calm and dignified face on such a small denomination connects generations of Americans to history. On the reverse of the 1970 penny, you'll find the classic wheat-free design that had already transitioned to the Lincoln Memorial in 1959. The Lincoln Memorial reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, showcases the Grand Monument in Washington, D.C. If you look very closely at high-grade examples, you can even spot a tiny representation of the statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial. That detail alone makes this coin special, a president on the front, and the monument built in his honor on the back. Now let's talk about mintage. In 1970, hundreds of millions of pennies were struck at the Denver Mint. Because of that high production number, most 1970 D pennies are extremely common. In circulated condition, they're usually worth only face value or just a few cents above it. Many people spend them every day without a second thought. But here's where things get interesting: not all 1970 D pennies are created equal. Condition plays a massive role in determining value. A coin that has been heavily circulated, scratched, faded, and worn, will never compare to one that has been preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition. Collectors use grading terms like mint state to describe coins that show no wear from circulation. Within mint state, there are levels, and the highest levels can command surprising premiums. One of the most desirable characteristics of a 1970 D Lincoln cent is strong strike quality and bright original red color. Copper coins are particularly sensitive to environmental exposure. Over time, they darken and turn brown. While brown coins are still collectible, a full red example with blazing luster stands out dramatically in the marketplace. Then there are varieties and errors, the true hidden treasures of the coin world. Although the 1970s small date is more famous among collectors, Denver minted coins can also display striking errors or die varieties that dramatically increase value. Off-center strikes, doubled dies, repunched mint marks, and other minting anomalies can turn an ordinary cent into something extraordinary. These errors occur during the minting process when dies are misaligned or when multiple impressions overlap slightly. Collectors love these mistakes because they represent something unique. A standard coin is one of millions. An error coin might be one of only a handful. Another important factor is professional grading. Coins that are certified by major grading services gain credibility in the marketplace. A certified high-grade 1970D Lincoln cent can attract competitive bidding at auction, especially if it displays exceptional eye appeal. Let's imagine you come across a 1970D penny in a roll from the bank. What should you look for? First, check the mint mark under the date. Make sure it has a clear D. Then examine the surfaces under magnification. Look for doubling in the lettering or date. Pay close attention to Lincoln's hair and cheek. These high points are usually the first to show wear. Flip the coin over and inspect the Lincoln Memorial. The steps and columns should be sharp and well defined on a strong strike. Also observe the color. Does it have a bright red glow? Is the luster uninterrupted when you tilt it under light? These details can mean the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth hundreds or even thousands. The late 1960s and early 1970s were an interesting period for U.S. coinage. Copper prices were fluctuating, and the mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities of coins to meet demand. As a result, quality control sometimes slipped. That's one reason why finding a superbly preserved 1970D cent can be more challenging than you might think. That it's also important to store any valuable coin properly. Copper reacts easily to moisture and air. A rare high-grade coin can lose value quickly if it's mishandled or stored in poor conditions. Collectors typically use protective holders or archival quality flips to prevent damage. Now here's the part that truly excites collectors and treasure hunters alike. While most 1970D Lincoln pennies are common, there have been exceptional examples that shocked the numismatic world when they crossed the auction block. These were coins in elite condition, virtually flawless, with blazing red surfaces and razor-sharp details. When coins like that appear at major auctions, serious collectors compete fiercely, and in one remarkable case, a 1970D Lincoln 1-cent penny achieved an astonishing auction result of $76,732. Think about that for a moment. A coin originally worth just 1 cent, a tiny piece of copper that could have been dropped in a parking lot or forgotten in a drawer, transformed into a treasure valued at more than most cars. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about money, it's about history, rarity, condition, and the thrill of discovery. Stories like this inspire people all over the world to start checking their change more carefully. Who knows what might be hiding in a jar of old pennies? Every coin has a story. Every coin passed through countless hands, grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, before possibly landing in a collector's album. The 1970D Lincoln cent represents more than just currency. It's a small time capsule from an era of cultural change in America. It circulated during a time of historic events, social transformation, and technological advancement. Holding one connects you directly to that period. If you're thinking about starting your own search, begin with coin rolls from banks or inherited collections from family members. Use a magnifying glass, study grading guides, and compare your finds with certified examples online. Patience is key. Most coins will be ordinary, but it only takes one extraordinary piece to make the hunt worthwhile. The beauty of coin collecting is that anyone can participate. You don't need millions of dollars to begin. All it takes is curiosity and attention to detail. But what if one of those ordinary-looking coins could be worth more than a brand-new luxury car? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the United States of America 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that might be hiding in plain sight, waiting to surprise someone with an incredible discovery. The year 1971 was an important time in American history. The Vietnam War was ongoing, music was changing the world, and the United States economy was facing significant shifts. Amid all of this, millions upon millions of pennies were being struck for everyday use. At the center of each of those coins was the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, first introduced to the cent in 1909 to honor his 100th birthday. The Lincoln cent had already become one of the most iconic coins in American history, and by 1971, it was a staple of daily life. The 1971 Lincoln penny still featured the classic obverse portrait designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln's calm and dignified face faces to the right, with the word Liberty on one side and the year 1971 stamped clearly beneath the motto "In God We Trust." On the reverse, the coin continued to display the Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This design, created by Frank Gasparo, even includes a tiny depiction of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a detail many people never notice. Now, let's talk about what makes the 1971 No Mint Mark penny special. First, what does no mint mark mean? In the United States, coins are struck at different mint facilities. During 1971, pennies were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Coins from Denver carry a small D mint mark. San Francisco coins from that era often have an S. But Philadelphia coins traditionally did not carry a mint mark at that time. So, when you see a 1971 penny with no mint mark, it means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At first glance, that might not sound rare at all. After all, the Philadelphia Mint produced a massive number of pennies in 1971, more than 3 billion of them. With such a high mintage, you might assume the coin is extremely common and worth only 1 cent. And in circulated condition, that's usually true. Most 1971 no mint mark pennies you find in pocket change are worth face value or just a few cents, but here's where things get interesting: condition is everything in coin collecting. The difference between a worn-out penny and a perfectly preserved one can mean the difference between 1 cent and thousands of dollars. Coins are graded on a scale that measures their condition, from heavily worn to flawless mint state examples. When a 1971 no mint mark penny is found in pristine, uncirculated condition with sharp details, full original red luster, and no visible marks, it becomes a completely different story. Collectors are especially interested in coins graded at the very top of the scale, such as MS 67 or higher. These coins are incredibly rare because most pennies from 1971 were handled, spent, and circulated. Very few were carefully preserved right from the mint and kept untouched for decades. Over time, even tiny scratches, spots, or dulling of the surface can reduce a coin's grade significantly. Another factor that can increase the value of a 1971 no mint mark penny is the presence of errors or varieties. Mint errors are mistakes that happen during the coin production process. These can include double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks. A double die occurs when the design is impressed onto the die more than once at slightly different angles, causing visible doubling in the lettering or date. If such an error is dramatic and clearly visible, collectors can pay substantial amounts for it. In the early 1970s, the mint was using high-speed presses to keep up with demand. With such high production numbers, quality control was not always perfect. This means that while most 1971 pennies are ordinary, a small number may show interesting characteristics that make them stand out. The composition of the 1971 Lincoln cent is another important detail. These pennies were made primarily of copper, 95% copper and 5% zinc. This gives them their rich reddish color when new. Over time, copper reacts with the environment and can turn brown or develop spots. Coins that retain their original red color are especially prized. Collectors often describe pennies as red, red-brown, or brown, depending on how much of the original mint color remains. A full red example in high mint state grade is far more valuable than a brown example in the same grade. Imagine searching through old coin rolls from a bank or inherited coin jars from a relative. You spot a 1971 penny with no mint mark. Instead of tossing it aside, you take a closer look. The surfaces shine with a bright, fiery red glow. The details of Lincoln's hair and the Lincoln Memorial are razor sharp. There are no visible scratches, no dull patches, and no discoloration. At that moment, you might be holding something far more valuable than you ever expected. Professional grading services play a major role in determining a coin's market value. When a coin is submitted for grading, experts carefully examine it under magnification and assign a numerical grade. They then seal it in a protective holder with a label that certifies its authenticity and condition. Collectors and investors rely on these grades when buying and selling coins. especially at high price levels. Auction records show that when a 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny achieves an exceptionally high grade and outstanding eye appeal, competitive bidding can drive the price to astonishing levels. Serious collectors who are building top-ranked sets are willing to pay significant premiums for the finest known examples. The combination of rarity in top condition, strong demand, and historical significance can create the perfect storm for a remarkable sale. It's also important to understand the psychology of collecting. Many collectors strive to assemble complete date and mint sets of Lincoln cents. For common dates like 1971, the real challenge isn't finding the coin, it's finding the absolute best possible example. When population reports show that only a tiny handful of coins exist in the highest grade, competition becomes intense. Each incremental upgrade in condition can mean a dramatic jump in value. The 1971 no-mint mark penny represents more than just a piece of copper. It reflects a moment in American history. It circulated during a time of economic change, cultural transformation, and technological advancement. Every worn example has passed through countless hands, bought small items, and been part of everyday life. And yet, somewhere along the way, a few pristine pieces escaped circulation and survived untouched for decades. That if you're wondering whether you should start checking your change, the answer is absolutely yes. While the chances of finding a top-graded example in circulation today are slim, it's not impossible to discover high-quality coins in old collections, rolls, or estate sales. Learning how to evaluate luster, strike quality, and surface preservation can dramatically improve your ability to spot hidden gems. When examining a 1971 no-mint mark penny, pay close attention to the high points of the design. Look at Lincoln's cheekbone and jawline for signs of wear. Check the steps and columns of the Lincoln Memorial for sharpness. Tilt the coin under light to observe the cartwheel effect of the original mint luster. These small details can make a huge difference. Storage is equally important. If you believe you found a high-grade coin, avoid touching the surfaces with your fingers. Hold it by the edges and store it in a protective holder. Even minor mishandling can reduce its value. Over the years, stories have circulated about ordinary people discovering rare coins in the most unexpected places. Some found valuable pennies in bank rolls. Others inherited jars of coins that turned out to contain treasures. The thrill of the hunt is part of what makes coin collecting so addictive and rewarding, and now we come to the moment that truly captures the imagination. While most 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies are worth only a small premium over face value, an extraordinary example in superb mint state condition has reached an astonishing auction result. One remarkable specimen achieved a price of $76,734, yes, a single penny, originally worth just 1 cent, soared to $76,734 because of its exceptional condition and collector demand. That incredible figure proves that sometimes, the smallest coins can hold the biggest surprises. So next time you see a 1971 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. We're diving deep into one of the most overlooked coins in American pocket change history, the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it may look like just another copper coin jingling in your drawer. But as you're about to discover, some of these humble cents can carry surprising value, incredible history, and even life-changing potential. The year 1978 was an interesting time in the United States of America. The nation was moving forward after a decade of economic challenges. Disco music filled the air, technology was beginning to evolve, and millions of pennies were struck to keep commerce flowing smoothly. Among those coins was the 1978 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, and that small missing letter is exactly what makes people curious. Before we talk about value, let's understand what no mint mark really means. In 1978, pennies were primarily struck at two major facilities, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins from Denver carry a small, D mint mark. However, during that time, coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint did not carry any mint mark at all. So when you see a 1978 penny without a letter under the date, it simply means it was minted in Philadelphia. But here's where things get interesting. The 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny features the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. This design, created by Victor David Brenner, has been a staple of American coinage since 1909. On the reverse, you'll see the familiar Lincoln Memorial design, which was introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. That makes the 1978 penny part of the Lincoln Memorial series, a design that remained in use until 2008. Now let's talk numbers. In 1978, the Philadelphia Mint produced billions of pennies. Yes, billions. That means most 1978 no-mint mark pennies are extremely common. If you find one in circulated condition, meaning it has been used in everyday transactions, it is typically worth only face value. 1 cent. Nothing more, but condition is everything in coin collecting. When collectors talk about value, they focus on grading. Coins are graded on a scale from poor to mint state. A heavily worn coin with scratches and dull surfaces will never bring big money. However, a coin that looks nearly perfect, sharp details, bright luster, no visible wear, is in a completely different category. An uncirculated 1978 no-mint mark penny in mint state 60 to 63 condition might be worth a small premium over face value. Maybe a few cents. Perhaps $1 or $2. But when you move into higher grades, mint state 65, 66, or even 67, that's where the excitement builds. High-grade coins are rare because most pennies were used in daily commerce. Very few were carefully preserved from the moment they left the mint. Collectors search for coins with blazing red color, full original luster, and flawless surfaces. These are known as red examples, meaning the original copper color has not faded to brown. Color plays a massive role in value. A 1978 penny can be categorized as brown, red-brown, or red. Brown coins have oxidized over time and are generally less valuable. Red coins retain their original mint brilliance and are far more desirable. Now imagine finding a 1978 no-mint mark penny graded mint state 67 red by a top grading service. Suddenly, what was once pocket change becomes a serious collectible, but that's not all. Collectors also search for errors and varieties. Mint errors can transform an ordinary penny into something extraordinary. Off-center strikes, double strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks are just a few examples. Even subtle double die errors, where the design appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment during die creation, can dramatically increase value, while major double die varieties are not commonly associated with 1978 pennies the way they are with some earlier years. Minor doubling and striking anomalies do exist. Sharp-eyed collectors examine every detail under magnification, hoping to discover something unique. Another factor that adds intrigue is strike quality. Not all coins are struck equally. Some show weak details on Lincoln's hair or the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. A sharply struck coin with crisp details stands out and commands stronger prices in high grades. So what determines whether your 1978 no-mint mark penny is worth serious money? First, condition; second, color; third, rarity in that specific grade; fourth, certification by a reputable grading company. Professional grading services authenticate coins and assign an official grade. Once encapsulated in a tamper-proof holder, the coin gains credibility in the marketplace. Collectors are far more willing to pay strong prices for certified high-grade examples. It's important to be realistic, though. The vast majority of 1978 no-mint mark pennies found in jars, drawers, or circulation will not be worth more than face value. But the thrill comes from the possibility. Because in coin collecting, condition rarities are real. When billions were made, almost none were saved perfectly, and that's the magic. A simple penny that most people ignore can become a prized collectible when preserved at the highest level. That's why collectors search through bank rolls, estate sales, and old collections. They know that hidden treasures can still be discovered. Let's paint a picture. Imagine you're sorting through a box of old coins inherited from a relative. You spot a shiny 1978 penny. It looks brighter than the rest. Under a light, it glows with original copper red brilliance. There are no visible scratches. Lincoln's cheek is clean. The fields are smooth and reflective. You send it for grading. Weeks later, it comes back graded mint state 67 red. Suddenly, that 1-cent coin has transformed into something extraordinary. High-grade modern coins often surprise people with their auction results. When registry set collectors compete, collectors who aim to build the finest graded sets, prices can climb dramatically for the very best examples available, and that's how a seemingly common coin can reach astonishing heights. But remember, value is not just about money. The 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny represents a moment in American history. It circulated during a transformative era. It passed through countless hands, grocery stores, gas stations, school lunch counters. It quietly witnessed everyday life across the country. That historical connection adds emotional value beyond the numbers. That if you're thinking about searching for one, here's what to do: start by examining the date carefully. Confirm it reads 1978 with no mint mark under the year. Then inspect the coin's color. Is it bright red, red-brown, or dark brown? Check for wear on Lincoln's cheek and jawline. Look at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Sharp details are a good sign. Use a magnifying glass to inspect for errors. Rotate the coin under strong light to spot luster and surface marks. And if you truly believe you have an exceptional example, consider professional grading. Coin collecting is one of the most accessible hobbies in the world. Anyone can start with pocket change. And coins like the 1978 no-mint mark penny remind us that even the smallest denomination can hold fascination. The key lesson here is simple: never underestimate condition rarity. Billions minted does not mean billions preserved perfectly. Time, handling, and circulation reduce quality. Only a tiny fraction survive at the highest levels. That's why collectors remain excited about coins many people overlook. So the next time you receive change, take a second look. That ordinary copper coin might not just be worth 1 cent. It might represent history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. We are diving deep into the fascinating world of the United States of America 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that most people overlook, yet collectors search for with incredible excitement. The year 1981 was a turning point in American coinage history. The country was facing rising copper prices, and the United States Mint was preparing to change the composition of the Lincoln cent forever. But before that change officially took place in 1982, the 1981 pennies were among the last produced in the traditional bronze alloy that had been used for decades. This alone makes the 1981 Lincoln cent special. But today, we are focusing on the no-mint mark version, a detail that often confuses beginners but excites experienced collectors. When a Lincoln penny has no mint mark, it means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At that time, the Philadelphia facility did not use a P mint mark on 1-cent coins. So a blank space under the date is not a mistake, it's a sign of its origin. The obverse of the coin features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln's calm yet powerful profile has been a symbol of American heritage since 1909. Above his head, you'll see the word Liberty. In front of him is the date 1981. And just beneath the date area, you'll notice the absence of a mint mark. On the reverse, you'll find the classic Lincoln Memorial design. This reverse was introduced in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birth anniversary. If you look closely at the memorial building, you can even see a tiny image of Lincoln seated inside, an incredible detail for such a small coin. Now here is where things become interesting. In 1981, there were actually 2 types of pennies produced, the 1981 and the 1981 D from Denver, and the 1981 S from San Francisco for proof coins. But within the 1981 Philadelphia issue, collectors pay attention to subtle variations such as the small date and large date varieties. The difference between small date and large date might sound minor, but in the coin collecting world, small differences can create big value. The size and spacing of the numbers in 1981 can determine rarity, especially when combined with condition and strike quality. Condition is everything. Most 1981 no-mint mark pennies were heavily circulated. They passed through cash registers, grocery stores, vending machines, and piggy banks. Over time, they developed scratches, wear, and dull surfaces, but occasionally, a coin survives in pristine condition, uncirculated, with full mint luster shining brightly across its surface. These coins are graded by professional services using the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70. The higher the number, the better the condition. A coin graded MS65 or higher is considered gem quality. When you reach MS67 or MS68, you are talking about near perfection. These coins have sharp details, glowing surfaces, and almost no visible marks, and here's where excitement truly builds, because the 1981 no mint mark penny was produced in large numbers. Most examples are only worth face value. 1 cent. Just 1 penny, but when you combine rare high-grade condition with strong eye appeal and the right variety, values can skyrocket. Collectors are always searching for coins with exceptional strike quality, where Lincoln's hair details are crisp, the lettering is bold, and the memorial columns are sharp and clean. Coins that were struck from fresh dies often display superior detail compared to later strikes. There are also error coins to watch for. Mint errors add another layer of value. Off-center strikes, double die varieties, clipped planchets, and die cracks can transform an ordinary penny into a collector's treasure. While not every 1981 penny has errors, those that do can command significant premiums. One fascinating detail about 1981 pennies is their weight. Since they were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, they weigh approximately 3.11 grams. In 1982, the composition changed to primarily zinc with a thin copper plating, reducing the weight to 2.5 grams. So the 1981 issue represents one of the final full copper Lincoln cents. Copper content alone makes these coins appealing to some collectors and investors who appreciate historical metal composition. Now imagine discovering a 1981 no mint mark penny in flawless mint state condition, stored carefully for decades, untouched by circulation. Its red copper glow still shining as if it left the mint yesterday. Professional grading companies encapsulate such coins in protective holders, confirming authenticity and assigning a grade. Once certified, the market determines the value based on demand, rarity in that grade, and auction competition, and that's where things can become astonishing. While most circulated examples remain worth a single cent, top population coins, those graded at the very highest levels, are incredibly scarce. Only a handful may exist in that condition. Collectors compete fiercely for these elite examples because registry set builders want the absolute best coin available for each year and mint combination. When two determined bidders want the same top-graded coin, prices can rise dramatically. It's the classic law of supply and demand. Large original mintage does not guarantee availability in perfect condition decades later. Time, handling, and storage conditions reduce the number of flawless survivors. Another factor that adds intrigue is toning. Over time, copper reacts with air and environment, creating beautiful colors, deep reds, fiery oranges, soft browns, even rainbow hues in rare cases. Natural, attractive toning can increase desirability significantly. However, collectors must also be cautious. Artificial cleaning or improper storage can damage the surface, reducing value drastically. A cleaned coin often loses its natural luster and develops unnatural shine or hairline scratches. So if you are searching through rolls of pennies or examining old coin jars, handle them carefully. Avoid rubbing or polishing them. Sometimes what looks dull could actually be a valuable coin waiting to be professionally evaluated. The thrill of coin collecting lies in this possibility, that hidden among ordinary change could be something extraordinary. The 1981 no mint mark Lincoln cent reminds us that even modern coins deserve attention. While older coins from the early 1900s often steal the spotlight, late 20th century coins in high grades are becoming increasingly competitive among serious collectors. As more people begin building high-quality registry sets, the demand for top-condition coins rises. This demand can push prices into surprising territory. Imagine the excitement of attending a coin auction and watching bidding escalate for a coin that most people would ignore in everyday life. It is a powerful reminder that knowledge transforms ordinary objects into treasures. The design itself adds historical charm. Abraham Lincoln, one of America's most respected presidents, has appeared on the cent longer than any other figure on a circulating U.S. coin. His presence connects generations of Americans through a small copper disc that has passed through billions of hands. The 1981 no mint mark penny may look simple, but it carries layers of history, economic challenges, mint production changes, artistic legacy, and the transition period before the composition shift of 1982. For collectors, it represents the end of an era. For investors, it represents opportunity. For everyday people, it represents the possibility that value can hide in plain sight. That if you decide to search for one, pay attention to these key details: look for strong red color instead of brown, check for sharp details in Lincoln's hair, inspect the date size carefully, weigh the coin if possible to confirm copper composition, avoid coins with heavy scratches or cleaning marks. Consider professional grading if the coin appears exceptional. Patience and careful observation are essential in the coin world. Not every penny will be valuable, but the right combination of condition, variety, and demand can produce remarkable results. And now, here comes the moment that truly captures attention. While the vast majority of 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies remain worth only face value, an example in extraordinary, nearly flawless mint state condition has reached an astonishing auction price of $76,763, yes, a single 1-cent coin, smaller than a bottle cap. Achieving a value that most people would never imagine. That is the magic of numismatics. It is not just about metal. It is about rarity, preservation, history, competition, and the passion of collectors who are willing to pay extraordinary amounts for the very best. So next time you see a 1981 penny without a mint mark, do not dismiss it. Examine it carefully. But today, we're diving deep into a coin that might be sitting quietly in your pocket right now, the 1985 Lincoln 1-cent penny from the United States of America. This small copper-plated coin may look ordinary at first glance, but under the right conditions, with the right details, and in the right grade, it can become something extraordinary. So stay with me as we uncover the history, design, minting story, rare errors, grading secrets, and the jaw-dropping potential value of the 1985 Lincoln cent. Let's begin with the basics. The 1985 penny was struck at the famous Denver Mint, located in Denver, Colorado. You'll find the small D mint mark just below the date on the obverse side of the coin. That tiny letter tells you the coin was produced at one of the most important minting facilities in the country. The coin features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials, VDB, can be found on the lower part of Lincoln's shoulder. This portrait has been a symbol of American coinage since 1909, when the Lincoln cent first replaced the Indian head penny. On the reverse side of the 1985 penny, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look very closely at the memorial, you can even see a tiny representation of the Lincoln statue inside. It's one of the most detailed miniature designs ever placed on a circulating U.S. coin. Now here's something interesting. By 1985, pennies were no longer made primarily of solid copper. In 1982, the United States Mint changed the composition due to rising copper prices. The 1985 Lincoln cent is made of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating. This makes the coin lighter than older copper cents. It weighs approximately 2.5 grams instead of the 3.11 grams found in pre-1982 copper pennies. So if you ever find a 1985 penny that weighs more than 3 grams, you might be looking at something extremely unusual, possibly an error struck on the wrong planchet. Now let's talk about mintage. The Denver Mint produced billions of 1985 pennies. With such a massive number, you might think the coin is extremely common, and in circulated condition, it absolutely is. Most examples you find in pocket change are worth exactly 1 cent, but here's where things get exciting. Condition changes everything. Coin grading is the key factor that determines whether your penny is ordinary or valuable. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS-60 is considered mint state but may have marks and dull luster. A coin graded MS-65 will have strong luster and fewer marks. When you reach MS-67 or higher, you're entering elite territory. For modern coins like the 1985 penny, the highest grades are incredibly difficult to achieve. Even though billions were made, very few survive in near-perfect condition. Most coins were tossed into circulation immediately, where they picked up scratches, nicks, and where, finding a 1985 penny in pristine condition, with blazing red luster, sharp strike details, no spots, and almost flawless surfaces, is rare. Collectors particularly love what is known as red designation coins. When a copper-plated zinc penny retains its original bright red color without toning, it receives a red label from grading services. Over time, many coins turn brown or develop spots. Fully red examples are much harder to find decades later. Now let's move into error coins, because this is where hidden treasure often lies. Mint errors occur when something goes wrong during production. These mistakes can dramatically increase a coin's value. For the 1985 VDB Penny, collectors look for several types of errors. One of the most desirable is a double die error. This happens when the coin's design is accidentally impressed twice at slightly different angles during die creation. The result is visible doubling in the lettering or date. If you see strong doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust, you might have something special. Another error to look for is a repunched mint mark. Although by 1985 mint marks were generally applied differently than in earlier decades, unusual variations can still appear. Off-center strikes are also exciting. If your penny's design is shifted significantly to one side, leaving part of the planchet blank, collectors may pay a premium, especially if the date is still visible. Then there are clipped planchets, die cracks, and dramatic die breaks known as cuts. Each of these adds character and rarity, but condition and errors are not the only factors. Strike quality also matters. Some 1985 VDB pennies were weakly struck, meaning fine details on Lincoln's hair or the memorial columns appear soft. A sharply struck example with crisp lines and full detail is far more desirable. Luster is another crucial element. When you tilt the coin under light, a high-grade specimen will display a vibrant cartwheel effect, a spinning glow that moves across the surface. Dull or flat surfaces reduce value. Let's talk about preservation. If you believe you have a high-grade 1985 VDB penny, never clean it. Cleaning destroys original surfaces and drastically reduces value. Even wiping it with a cloth can leave micro scratches visible under magnification. Instead, store the coin in a protective holder and consider professional grading through a reputable service. Third-party grading authenticates the coin and assigns an official grade, which greatly impacts market price. Now here's the part that truly captures attention. While most 1985 VDB pennies are worth face value, extraordinary examples in superb condition have reached astonishing levels at auction. When a coin achieves an elite grade and flawless red surfaces, collectors compete aggressively. Imagine pulling a penny from a roll, sending it for grading, and discovering it is among the finest known examples. That tiny copper-colored coin you once ignored suddenly becomes a centerpiece of a collection, and in the highest recorded case, a top-grade 1985 VDB Lincoln 1-cent penny reached a value of $76,765. Yes. You heard that correctly. A coin worth 1 cent in everyday transactions transformed into a treasure worth $76,765 simply because of condition, rarity at the highest grade, and collector demand. Stories like this are what make coin collecting so thrilling. It's a hobby built on patience, knowledge, and the excitement of discovery. Think about how many pennies pass through your hands each year. How many sit forgotten in jars, drawers, or old piggy banks? Among them could be a sharply struck, brilliantly preserved 1985 VDB penny waiting to be recognized. The beauty of modern coin collecting is that you don't need to search shipwrecks or ancient ruins. Sometimes, the treasure is hiding in plain sight. If you want to start checking your own coins, here's a quick guide. First, look for the D mint mark under the date 1985. Second, examine the coin under strong light. Third, check for full red color with minimal spots. Fourth, inspect details for sharpness and any unusual doubling or striking errors. Finally, weigh the coin if possible to confirm its standard 2.5 gram zinc composition. Small details make big differences. The 1985 VDB Lincoln penny may not be rare in quantity, but in extraordinary condition, it becomes a modern rarity. That contrast between common and exceptional is what drives record-breaking prices. Collectors are always searching for the finest known examples. Registry set competitors aim for perfection, and when only a handful of coins qualify at the very top grade, prices can skyrocket. So next time you receive change, don't overlook the pennies. Each one carries history, a link to the presidency of Abraham Lincoln, the craftsmanship of the United States Mint, and the economic story of mid-1980s America. The year 1985 represents a time before digital payments dominated daily life. Coins were constantly exchanged, spent, and handled. Finding one that survived untouched is like discovering a time capsule.